Good evening. Welcome to a special edition of Cat Space. I am Cat. With me is Philip,
It's
Luna,
buckets.
Buckets,
Sorry.
Luna, and Leon. Tonight's special event covers the indictment of Donald Trump. Let's talk about it. Question 1. Due to the discovery of classified documents, which should have never been taken, will this be enough to stop his candidacy as President of the United States of America?
Can I answer this one first? It probably won't be enough to stop his presidency of the United States, because if you actually look at um, Clinton, she did exactly the same thing. She stole documents as well. She put classified documents as well, and that didn't stop her from running. It probably lost her the election because they couldn't trust her anymore. But it didn't really stop her from running, because all Donald Trump really has to do is give back the documents. So that's one perspective, I think.
Luna?
Can you please reread the question one more time?
Oh, absolutely. Due to the discovery of classified documents, which should have never been taken, will this be enough to stop his candidacy as President of the United States of
Well,
America?
I mean, this information is not new. They knew that he took files a while ago, and they had to go. They went through his home in Florida or something, I believe. So this information is not new, and yet Trump supporters are still out there. He is so far on his own wing that these people are kind of, in my opinion, a bit sheep-like. They sense that he will give them all this freedom and all these rights, and they just go after it. But in reality, I feel like he would screw them over. But yes, I do feel like these people would follow him off a cliff. So his candidacy is probably still very high up there. There's still, just because he's done this one thing, there's still morals and values that he supports that, pro-gun, pro, whatever else it is that he, the wall, stuff like that. There's people out there that really support those areas, and unfortunately, they will still vote for him.
Leon?
I think I think Phil's right. It won't be enough to convict him, unless if he, when he was the president, declassified them under executive order, then they won't have grounds to charge him. But I don't think that's the case. There is not enough. I don't believe there is enough evidence there to convict him. Like Phil also said, the Hillary Clinton, the Hillary Clinton files. The what was it? The removed the what was it? The deleted documents. I think it was. I don't know if it was an email thing. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. So the Clinton files were a selection of there were things like laptops that had classified information that she brought home with her, plus mobile phones which she tried to burn herself to get rid of the evidence. So she actively knew what she was doing and then tried to get rid of the evidence really, really quickly, which is very suspicious. And that, although that didn't stop her from competing as a candidate as the president of the United States, it did stop many people in America from voting for her, because it discredited her her popularity. So in the end, the American people decided that they just could not trust this person as president.
And also, this kind of activity, this kind of thing is not. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon. It's very, very common when it comes to either presidents or candidates. You'll all find them. They're always doing the same thing. For some reason, they've got it in them that they think that they're 10 feet tall, and they can do whatever the hell they want. No, they were voted in from the people, and they need to act in accordance with the people's wishes, not for one's own self-interest.
I'd just like to point out that Obama was guilty of this, and he returned all his stuff. And also Biden was guilty as well of this, and he returned all his stuff. So this crime it's not uncommon amongst governors and presidents or politicians in general. This is something that's happened frequently that the Department of Justice is actually aware of. But they're always asked to give back any classified document.
Now, with the first question, as Luna said, the classified documents aren't entirely new. But with the evidentiary of videos and audios showing Mr. Trump talking about the classified documents, even waving them in the air and telling people who didn't have clearance to those documents, who weren't Secret Service, who weren't part of the staff, inviting people in to show them. I mean, they were found in his ballroom, in the bathroom. They were found everywhere in Mar-a-Lago. So, would this be enough to stop his candidacy? Leon reckons no. I reckon there could be a possible chance he could be stopped completely of being the president of the United States of America, because he basically refused to hand over any sort of documents, and these are just hearsay rumors. I don't know if they're correct or not, but there are rumors, alleged rumors of things being shredded, things being burnt, things being shoved down the toilet. And if that is correct, then this could be imprisonment, and it's espionage and possible, information that no one in America knows about, and only he knows about. And doing that is espionage. That's going to cost him his presidency. That's what I think. Now, next question. What other crimes could Donald Trump be found guilty of?
Well, there is the famous insurrection that he could have been in trouble for. The question is, of course, did he actually start it? Was he a part of it? Was it just a brawl that the people just did because they didn't get their favorite candidate in? And did he basically not want to have anything to do with it? So there's a lot of question marks around that, especially when you had different politicians encouraging it. And at the end of it, he just said, guys, thank you for your support, but you need to go home now. See, that might be the one thing, that one public statement that he made, which was, guys, thank you for your support, but you really need to go home now. Might be the one thing that might save him from being in trouble from the insurrection. And I also find it very interesting that you can't find that video anywhere on Google, ironically enough. There's writings on it, but there doesn't seem to be any physical media stuff on that, which I find very, very interesting.
Or telling everybody to go home, and I sent you guys that video footage just before we went on air.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't play that video because it doesn't belong to us. But Luna, what other crimes do you think Donald Trump could be found guilty of?
So, the thing that they mainly have him on is creating fake business records and all upon his affairs and stuff like that, and paying people to kind of hush when he did that. But with all this new stuff that's coming out, I mean, everything that Phil just said, everything that they got when they first raided his first home. I mean, my real question is, how did they even get this information? There's a whistleblower somewhere in the midst. You know what I mean? Someone's got all this private information and they're sharing it, and it's led to his arrest. I think all of those charges will mean something for him. I think he's going to get charged a little bit from something of every little aspect of what he's done. There's going to be a little slip up here. Maybe he had clearance to have the files, but maybe he stored them incorrectly, and they're going to get him on little things like that. They're going to really build up a case because Trump's lawyers are going to come hard at this, I believe.
There is one crime where he might actually get busted for, and that's an HR crime. So not paying his workers before he was president. So there was a point in time where Donald Trump was building casinos and also hotels, and also he had all this staff that were cleaners of said hotels and other hospitality staff, and they still haven't been paid yet, even after all these years. So I wouldn't be surprised if they bring that up and get him busted for unpaid wages, amongst all things. If the other crimes don't stick, then I wouldn't be surprised if they gather a bunch of people that haven't been paid by Donald Trump yet, and get them to speak forward and getting busted for that. So, but that would be clutching at straws. But I reckon it could happen. There is a high possibility that could happen for sure.
Leon, did I ask you this? What other crimes could Donald Trump be found guilty of?
Well, obviously the Mar-a-Lago, I think, is probably one of the more serious ones because that's the 11,000 documents that were, some of them which were classified. Also the Stormy Daniels thing, that was an issue. However, I believe there was a non-disclosure agreement, which I believe is called an NDA. However, I believe Stormy Daniels spoke about it, which meant she violated the NDA, which means Donald Trump could get money back from Stormy Daniels for blabbing about it, which I think that would probably get thrown out, even though he does face a trial, I think, in 2024. I think it's somewhere at the end, towards the end of March. The probes into the properties of the Trump organization, as Luna did say, that's one thing. There is a trial, I believe, which is set for October, and also some of the defamation cases, which has also been brought up. And the Capitol attack, I think the Capitol attack will probably, that's the insurrection that we're talking about, guys, in 2021. I think Phil mentioned it too, basically Donald Trump telling everybody, all right, go home. He still says that the election was, he still, by the way, when he said that speech, he said that he knows that the election was still rigged. But it's time to go home. But he probably shouldn't be facing that because it was the likes of Rudy Giuliani who was the one that was calling for the insurrection, not Donald Trump. He didn't call for it. Rudy Giuliani did. So if anybody's going to face a jury over that, it should be Giuliani. Now, as far as one other thing there, the Georgia election as well, which he believed that was around 12,000 votes that went missing somehow, which flipped the Republican seat of Georgia to the Democrats. And Donald Trump still believes that that's where the election was sabotaged.
Yeah, but didn't they just say on the news the other day that they have proof that he knew that was not the truth? I'm pretty sure I've heard that they have proof that he was 100% like in the knowing that he lost.
Yeah. I think I've heard that too, but those are the current situations that Donald Trump is facing right now. The current.
The answer for me is short and sweet. There's two answers. One, asking his former vice president, Michael Pence, to rig the count of the federal election and call him the winner. He asked him to rig it and put him above the Constitution of the United States of America. And Mr. Pence chose not to put his boss over the Constitution. And he has said that I will always put the Constitution over anybody else, and he's not worth putting it over. And he could have rigged it as well, but he chose not to. Yeah, the other thing I think he could be getting in trouble for was the fact that his followers asked for Mike Pence's hanging, and the fact they built, those old 1800 what do you call them, hanging things?
Gallows.
There's gallows.
No, they built a noose.
Yeah, gallows.
That's what they called it back then. They called it a gallows.
Yeah, so they built a gallows and they put it up and they started chanting for his hanging, and they broke into the house, sitting in Nancy Pelosi's chair, breaking everything in her room, taking computers and whatnot, and looking for Mike Pence when Mike Pence was sent to safety. The other thing is asking governors for 11,780 more votes. And he said that was 11 more votes than what he needed to win. And when the fact that they said to him, we will not be doing that because you are, you will not win this and we will not allow this to happen. And I think that it's important to see, above Stormy Daniels, above all of that, the classified documents, I think the little nitty gritty things of his time in the White House, calling for election fraud, calling for, I won, calling for, he did post something before January 6th saying, come on down to the Capitol January 6th, it's going to be wild. That was the first moment that was called out, and then that happened, and all hell broke loose.
I never thought in my life I would see anything like that.
That was actually our first podcast that we ever did, which was the insurrection.
Yeah, and I think that comes as full circle because I think that now he's being, he's going to be indicted for that too. He apparently is going to be appearing in court August 28th, and he has threatened Counsel Jack Smith and the DA and said, if you come after me, I'm coming after you, which is what he said on his Truth Social.
Which is a threat.
And he's asking, again, his clan or his followers for another civil war. And he said, if this happens, there's going to be, bloodshed. And it's, again, will we see another act of civil war in our lifetimes when it comes to Donald Trump?
The question is, is that legal? So,
making a threat? No, it's not legal.
No, but here's the thing, right? According to the US Constitution, Americans have the right to bear arms if they quote unquote feel that they are being overruled by a tyranny or a tyrannical government. So if Donald Trump can put forward the basis that the election is rigged and this has become a tyrannical government, even though it might be really, really violent and unstable and whatever, it might still be legal. And that's the really scary thing about this, because it is actually legal to have a militia in the United States of America. That's just one of the in fact, the lifeguards are actually a militia. I bet you didn't know that. So as far as immorality versus morality, we can argue until the cow comes home. But what we have to look at is what is technically, quote unquote, legal. And that's what it's probably going to come down to. So it'll be an interesting one, I'll have to say that.
The next question is this political? Leon?
I have, considering the timing of when these are going to take place, which is going to be roughly about 4 or 5 months before the US election, a lot of people do see it as political because right now, as I understand, Donald Trump in the polls is actually leading Joe Biden. The last time I checked, he was leading as preferred president of the United States over Joe Biden. And the fact that this is all going to come down next year in an election year, it does make it seem very political, even though that judge, I can't remember his name, is an independent judge.
Yeah, I think this is fairly political, and I think it's I find that I find it actually ironic that CNN, whenever America invades a country, they don't really talk about how America has invaded a country. They keep talking about Donald Trump. So I think this is really political. I'm not saying that what Donald Trump didn't do was wrong. What I'm saying is the timing that they're actually doing it is during a time where they're actually genuinely afraid of Donald Trump becoming president of the United States. And I think there's a lot of problems that are happening in with Joe Biden. A lot of people are saying that he's not fit to be president of the United States due to his mental health. And a lot of people have said, look, there should be someone else that should be leading America. That's not Joe Biden. And there have been lots of names that have been dropped, like Mitch McConnell, like Kamala Harris,
Governor Ron DeSantis.
Governor Ron DeSantis, and Donald Trump. And I find it ironic that the minute that everyone's almost lost faith in Joe Biden, that everyone seems to be siding towards Donald Trump, and that the first things that the Democrats keep talking about is the insurrection, which happened, at least 2 years ago. So we're still talking about those things, and it's almost like they're kind of focusing all the problems that are happening that we should be concentrating on, like the war in Syria. But for some reason, we're not even discussing that. What we are discussing is an insurrection that happened a really long time ago with Donald Trump. So I think this is 100% used as a political strategy to oust Donald Trump, and to get the American people to not vote him in. Because I think a lot of people are really afraid what will happen if he gets voted in as president.
Okay, Luna.
Luna.
Yeah, I heard it. So do I think this is political? Everything that Phil just said just opened my mind up a little bit. I was not thinking about the other side. Could this be a political move based on the other side? Possibly. That is a real strong possibility. They're trying to discredit his name, defame him in a way, not that he doesn't do that himself, but I was going to base the question around whether I think Donald Trump's using this as a political move. And considering that even if he was to be charged, there's still ways for him to run for presidency. So I don't think he's too stressed about using this as a political move. I do think he's going to use this for sympathy votes, though, 100%. He's going to play this up. He's going to say that they're lying. They're all this, he's just going to keep going with it. And the people that follow him are still going to blindly follow him in a way. And yeah, he'll use this to his own political agenda. Maybe not into all the politics, but his own political agenda for sure.
Is this political? I have to agree with all of you, but my only 2 cents I'll put on this is it political? 100% correct. I think Donald Trump, please don't come at me, this is only an opinion piece, but Donald Trump is running for the sake of running from prison. He's running from being charged with a lot of these crimes and going to prison for life. I think he's using his followers, as you said, Luna, for sympathy, and he's asking them to pay for his legal fees, and they're doing it without batting their eyelids twice and listening to his every word. What Donald Trump wants to do if he becomes the president again, is to become the president and run it and never ever leave office. He wants to be the only person that gets reelected over and over and over again. No sitting incumbent president
he
has
wants
ever
to
done
become a dictatorship for sure. That's the only reason too, that all of his relationships with people, like Russia, China, it's the only explanation as to why. North Korea, why would he be in North Korea? Do you know what I mean? It just, everything screams to that. And I feel like people blindly follow him without seeing this aspect of it. Like, look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, like
it should also be noted that no president can run more than twice, be a president more than twice. So even if he does win, say, the next election, in 4 years after that, it won't be thought about again.
And then in 4 years, his followers will get even more and more stronger, and they'll start building armies in a way so that when that time ends, they can protect him and keep him in there.
And that's why you have legal militias, just in case that happens. So just in case Donald Trump wins and he says, oh, I want to have a third term as president and I'm going to make that legal. This is why you have something in the American Constitution that allows for legal militias to be armed just in case that happens. And there is the fear that if Donald Trump does win the next election, that he actually might change that law. And if he changed that law, there probably will be another civil war.
And the only thing, one more thing I have to say is the fact that, as Luna said, look at the bigger picture. He's running from prison, right? He's running from being sentenced to prison for life. Two, he wants to become president so bad that he knows his followers will hang on to his every word and believe what he says and listen to him. And
I mean, really, what does he even bring to presidency besides his celebrity? What benefits have they really truly received and working to become a stronger or a greater nation in more support of everybody? There's just nothing there.
Sorry for that. I hate to disagree with that. I know a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, and I understand that. But Donald Trump, even though a lot of people hate him, one of the reasons why he garners so much support is because out of all of the presidents that sat on sat as president of the United States, he was the one president that didn't go to war every 30 seconds. In fact, there were less wars fought under Donald Trump than any other president to date.
Isn't that suspicious to you though?
No, it's not, because he was tired of Americans basically fighting wars that literally have nothing to do with them. The other thing that Donald Trump also did was he raised employment in more than in 1 month, more employment in 1 month than Obama did in his entire 2-term electorate.
Yeah, but look what Obama did. He introduced Obamacare. I mean, that was one of the biggest wins for American history. Like, I'm not saying that Trump doesn't have any good points, but what I'm saying is though, his bad points far outweigh those few small good things that he might have done or might have tried to contribute to. And in the matter of it all, if you're raising someone's payroll, for instance, right, and you're giving more to back to your career people, that money has to come from somewhere, number one. So he's pulled it from, let's say, the army or whatever. So now there's going to be areas where just because you pull it from somewhere, there's going to be holes in the budget now where things are going to lack, things are going to drop. And that's how you go into an economic crisis. And that's why I'm saying that even though he tried to do things, I don't think he's got the bigger picture in mind. He doesn't have the greater good of America in mind. He's got a 4-year plan, kind of. That's it.
I hate to disagree with you on this, and I know you're going to call me a Trump supporter for mentioning these points.
Trump supporter.
But one of the things that Donald Trump did actually do is he did actually America was going through a financial depression for a number of reasons, and there are all these tax-free arrangements that George W. Bush made with many countries when he had his war on terror. And that made America poorer. And what was happening was a lot of businesses were going to Mexico and other offshore countries to build their products. And so what Donald Trump did is he basically said, okay, if you come to America and set up shop, okay, with factories, we'll lower your taxes. And by doing that, there was more employment in America, and big companies could make more money and more profit. So what he effectively, the reason why a lot of people like Donald Trump is because where every other president that said, we're going to help you, we're going to protect you, we're going to get you out of poverty, they never did it. And they kept invading countries, and more people got killed, and people just got sick and tired of it. And so the reason why he has this great base is because he's done everything in his power to create jobs for Americans that wouldn't even normally have jobs. So when it comes to things like household surviving, cost of living, things like that, Donald Trump had a better cost of living than many other presidents to date. That's why Donald Trump has that better base, and that's why he's a popular president, or a possible popular president. The only issue was he was very racist. He didn't like the environment. He continuously was destroying the environment to create more jobs. And he probably has started his own cult. So like that's a bit scary. So there he does have his haters, and he does have his lovers, and he does have his supporters. So he did do good things whilst he was president.
Can I say something now?
Please.
The only thing I want to say is take a look at two people. And this is the only 2 cents I'll pour in. You have Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Both are 1 year older than the other. One is 78, one is 79, or one is 77. Both these men are in their older stage in life. Are they both fit? Absolutely not. Do I believe Joe Biden is a good person at heart? Yes, I do. Do I believe President Trump would last a distance for another 4 years? Absolutely not. Do I believe these two are bickering over the last Oreo cookie because one wanted it than the other? What their country needs is a fresh start in life, is a young gun coming out of the gates. These two men fighting or bickering over the last cookie.
Look, one of the biggest questions here too would be, would they last for, I'm sorry to say it in such a horrible way, but would they even last 4 years?
No.
I believe that they're coming into their years of, sorry, Kat, go on. They're coming into their years of older age now. Biden's starting to lose his memory. It's so obvious.
Yeah, and that's why I think the American people have lost faith in Joe Biden.
Yeah.
For that reason, because they're saying, look, he's a nice guy, but he's not mentally fit to be president.
Yeah.
He can't even remember his own allies.
Yeah.
He couldn't remember ScoMo.
Yeah. Anyway, go on, Kat.
As I said, and I'll drop it after this one, we're going to the last 3 questions. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, as Luna said, as you guys have said, these two are older gentlemen. Again, don't hate me, don't come at me. This is just my opinion. 2 older gentlemen who are almost into their 80s. Both are senile. Both forget what they are. Both say silly things at the wrong time. Both can't answer and dodge questions. Both forget. Donald Trump and Joe Biden aren't fit mentally, aren't fit emotionally, aren't fit physically. One wants to start a war and one wants to become a dictator. Okay.
Well, Donald Trump wasted no time at all ripping into the US female soccer team in the FIFA World Cup yesterday and linked it to Joe Biden. That is a person who is unfit for office, just like Joe Biden, unfortunately, because his memory issues at the moment. He's also not fit for office, but no one seems to get that, and nobody wants to do anything about it.
Nobody else running.
I just look. You are my honest opinion.
Sorry.
Donald Trump, although popular, his policies would be problematic, and Joe Biden running currently, he's just not the right president. So America needs to find someone else that is of sound body and mind. And unfortunately, I don't think that's I don't think that's Joe Biden, and I don't think that's Donald Trump either.
Okay. Next question. Can we please keep to a bare minimum? Do you believe that the indictment of Donald Trump is fair and balanced? Luna.
Nothing about this man's presidency or even time after that or before that has ever been balanced, healthy in any way. I'm sorry to say it, but he's just so problematic. There's so many things that surround him and go on, and it's just like chaos constantly. So do I think that, any of this is fair? And I mean, this is all happening for a reason. No and yes. I'm going to say it's a no and a yes answer, because do I think this is balanced for him? Yeah, sure. This is exactly how his life going. But do I think this is normal and, for a president and everything? No, of course not. This is so far whack. Like, this is like a celebrity playing out a movie in front of a whole country, and they're just sitting there watching it like, oh, our president.
You know
Yeah.
what? The funny thing about this is the fact that thank God I don't have to vote in a US election. Thank God, because the only real great thing about Donald Trump is the fact that he was hilarious. It was like a comedian on stage, but he was nuts. He was absolutely nuts. And the thing is, I think all the other countries that surrounded him knew he was nuts as well. And that really scared them.
Well,
because he has
yeah.
codes.
He's very good with his speeches and his acting. Let's just say that, because a whole lot of his speeches were just him talking about support and love, and it was never anything so political. And you know what, too, I really truly feel like he might have done good things as a president, but he did not do anything good that stood out 100% and is going to continue on throughout history. Do you know what I mean? He didn't really introduce anything that amazing. Like, it just, I don't know, it's just kind of average to me, but I get it.
You won't get the credit for it.
Leon, do you believe that the indictment to Donald Trump is fair and is balanced?
I don't believe that it is fair or balanced. I've always believed that this has been political because of the closeness to the upcoming US presidential election. That's not been fair and balanced at all, and the media coverage has not been fair and balanced at all. You could hear Trump go on a tirade and say one of the mainstream channels will cut him off, will cut the broadcast off within seconds. And I have seen footage of this where, say, one channel in the US will cover the whole thing, and then, say, if another channel's covering it, they would immediately cut it seconds into it. So no, this has not been found. This has not been balanced at all. And just for the record, I did check out the polls, by the way. The presidential election potential polls right now. There's only two people in the running right now, and that is Joe Biden, who is the current president of the United States. The only other options right now is Donald Trump. This is for Republicans, by the way. Donald Trump or DeSantis. And if it was a battle between Trump and DeSantis, then Trump would absolutely flog DeSantis. So it'd actually be Biden and Trump again.
I wish Kamala Harris would run.
See, I thought that Kamala Harris, I know this we're talking about Trump, but I thought that Kamala Harris got ripped off, and she's been treated more as a foreign minister than a vice president. And I think the reason why Joe Biden has done that is because he knows that Kamala Harris is a threat, because Kamala Harris is better than Joe Biden. And I would love it if Kamala Harris would become the president of the United States. I would love it.
May I say something about this? And my answer is only short. Sorry. Do I believe that the indictment of Donald Trump is fair and balanced? This one's a hard noodle scratcher, because this one, as Luna has said, and I only quote Luna in short space, that the bad outweighs all the good Mr. Trump had. And all the bad is accumulating to these indictments. It's indictment after indictment after indictment. Pardon me. He has another indictment, a fourth indictment coming up. And to me, I just believe that karma is heading his way, and he's expecting it. And do I believe he'll be sent to prison? No. Even though I'd like to see him in prison with an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, absolutely.
An orange hair, an orange skin.
Do I believe he will go to prison? Absolutely not. Do I believe that that this is becoming a circus? Absolutely. This is more than just a celebrity who had The Apprentice and who could fire anyone he wanted. This is now a person who has, the word criminal under his belt for all his criminal dealings and doings and shady dealings and doings. But is it fair and balanced?
Yeah.
Probably. And I don't like Donald Trump myself, but probably because of everything that's accumulated, and it's now come down to the biggest circus of them all. That's all I'm going to say.
I wonder if the media coverage too will play a problem within this, because so many opinions, I mean, usually they keep this type of stuff classified until a trial or until they're found guilty, purely because like this is such a big case and there's so many other. My one theory as to why they've released it to the public is to see if there's any other whistleblowers that will come forward with information or evidence they can use against him. That's the one thing I can think of as to why they would want the public to know this so soon before they have a guilty verdict. Because it's just for show now, isn't it? Everyone's covering it. Everyone's talking about it. What's the point of this whole thing if it's just going to be for show, which is his whole persona?
This is not going to be a fair trial. That's a big problem, because the way that it's been covered, it cannot possibly be a fair trial. And I think Trump's hoping for that. And eventually, because of the unfairness of the trial at the moment, with the amount of mainstream media and all that sort of stuff covering it, I reckon he'd be aiming for a mistrial.
You know what I find actually ironic is the fact that Donald Trump knew the day and the time that he was going to be arrested 2 days before they arrested him. Now, I'm not saying that
whistleblower again, a whistleblower.
I'm not saying that he's a psychic, but in saying that, how did he know that information? How did he know that information on the day that he was going to be arrested? A couple of days.
So someone who was on the task force collecting evidence against him would have leaked the files to somebody else who, when they're finally decided, okay, we're going to put a warrant out for their arrest for this, this, and this, they have to. The paperwork's massive. So my guess is that someone's seen that paperwork, and then because it's going to be done a couple of days beforehand, of course, on a case this big with all the evidence they've collected. So yeah, I'm guessing that there's a whistleblower in the midst on both sides. There's spies everywhere. Nowhere's safe. This is like modern warfare right now.
Do you know what I would be doing, right? He's like one of the few people that actually own their own planes. I'd get on that plane and go somewhere else. I wouldn't be staying in the United States. I'd be going
like a place that has a non-extradition pact or something.
Yes, something like that. Maybe the
Antarctica, maybe.
The last thing I'll say about this is, is this a distraction, not just to the United States, but globally to the world? We are all watching it unfold. Could this be a bigger distraction for the biggest secret of them all, or non-secret? The question is, are they gearing up Kamala Harris to begin her political campaign as the first female president of the United States of America? Because notice her numbers are down as vice president, right? Her numbers are very low in the vice presidency. But could we be seeing Donald Trump, this entertainment, while they're hiding out the biggest secret of them all? Is she going to politically run? Because no one has talked about Kamala. No one has mentioned Kamala.
She's not in the spotlight.
Because she's not in the spotlight. But could we
at the end of the day, exactly. This is about Donald. Do you know what I mean? This is not. That's the reason she's not been mentioned, because this is not about if he's still running for presidency. This is not about his campaign. This is more or less the news stories are covering his trial. Will be covering his trial, his indictment. That's it, purely.
This can be used from Joe Biden to kill two birds with one stone. One being Kamala Harris and the other Donald Trump. So one, you're focusing all this bad press on Donald Trump, but at the same time, you're not mentioning anything about Kamala Harris, so no one knows anything or anything that she's
We'll
done.
see, I guess, after.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Okay, last two. What could a guilty verdict look like for Donald Trump, Leon?
Well, it'll be the end of his political career. It'll be the end of every career that he's possibly had. I will not be surprised if everybody wants to, push forward, tear down the name of Trump or whatever. You know, everything that Trump has, he won't have if after he goes to jail, because he'll just be another bad person in this world that goes to jail for, crimes. You know, that, quite frankly, he, to be honest, has put himself in, because he's just running his mouth for the sake of running his mouth right now, and it seems to be connecting with people. But it's like the loony left versus the loony right. I mean, there's no what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for here? There's no people that are looking in the center right now. Everybody's either got their one side or their other side. But a guilty verdict would be the end of Donald Trump. It would be the jail for sure. I'm assuming the only way he would get out of jail if, say, a Republican, wins the election, or say a DeSantis or whatever, because he seems to be the likely candidate if Donald Trump can't do it, to take Biden, and it could be DeSantis' discretion to pardon him, but I don't think he will.
There might be a possibility of that. I'll tell you why. Donald Trump knows a lot of things. A lot of things that the US would rather keep very secret. And he actually might make a deal with DeSantis and say, I'll keep my mouth shut on the condition that you pardon me. And that's a very real bargaining chip that they might actually do. Okay. Or they just lock him up and put him in a prison and keep him silent for a really long time. But I think Donald Trump is smarter than everyone thinks he is. And if he could make a deal, he will make a deal, to be honest. Because he does know a lot of information. He does know a lot of secrets, and being the president of the United States, that he would have access to a lot of things that most people don't. So it would be very interesting if someone actually does pardon him if he's charged with crimes. But I would not be surprised if he makes that deal to say, I'll keep my mouth shut on the condition that I don't go to prison.
Luna,
Can you read the question again?
what would a guilty verdict look like for Donald Trump?
Okay. So legal experts reckon that even if convicted, he can still find a way to run for presidency. What are some hurdles here? Something that might come up in the wake of this, if he were to be sent to prison, is he would not be around to campaign. I don't. Can you read the question one more time? I'm so sorry, my mind just went blank.
What could a guilty verdict look like?
Okay. So yeah, prison time. I'm thinking private. Somehow he's going to have to go private. There's no way he's going to be able to interact with absolutely anybody, inmates, guards, nobody. Everyone's going to want to have a piece of him. But yeah, 100%. He'll still be looked after by secret services in a way, unless there'll be a special sector within the prison where he stays. But what does guilty look like for Donald? I don't think it's going to look any different on Donald's perspective. Do you know what I mean? Even if he were to go to jail, he's still going to try and get out. He's still going to try and run for presidency. He's still going to try and overthrow things. I think he's got a taste for it now. And purely because he's been told, no, you can't have it, he wants it more.
And the only thing I'll say about it, what could a guilty verdict look like for Donald Trump? For me, I would like to see life in prison, but would that happen? No. The only thing I could see happening for him is he'll still have a Secret Service. He'll still be in Mar-a-Lago, but he could eventually leave Mar-a-Lago and go into hiding go into hiding for the rest of his life, never to be seen again, never to be heard of again. And he'll be, as Leon said, he'll be forgotten about. And the only time you hear about him is if he's mouthing off again. And I think this entertainment will eventually leave and it'll die out. And it'll be a neck and neck presidency. And I don't see Biden surviving. I don't see Trump surviving. I don't even see Ron DeSantis winning. I think there's someone else in the works, in the running, coming very quietly. And that's what I think. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this Cat Space special edition of the indictments of Donald Trump. Don't forget to subscribe to our page and click the bell. It helps us go a long way and you receive more content. And let us know in the comments below. We are on Anchor.fm. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify as well, and Facebook. I am Kat, always as Buckets, Luna, and Leon. Until then, see you next week, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.